Hey, do you guys remember when Metroid Prime 4 got scrapped? Good times, good times. Wait, no, that was a bad time. Or wait. Yes, if you haven't heard by now because you've been living on the rocks, Metroid Prime 4 was moved to Retro Studios, who will basically be starting over on the game. Retro Studios being the company who made the original Prime trilogy, as well as the new Donkey Kong Country games. Now the reason, according to Nintendo, that the development was moved over was because the game wasn't meeting their quality standards that the first 3 games in the series had set. And you know, makes sense I guess. Until you consider that they haven't done this with basically any other game they've been making. And believe me, there have been some that would have benefited from this treatment. I'm looking at you, Star Wars Battlefront 2. That's not even Nintendo! That's not any of your crunkin' business. So that might make you wonder, why did Metroid Prime 4 get delayed? And I've come here today to say that you did it. It's all your fault. Hello all 1,353 of you, I'm Redkwan, and this is why we delayed Metroid Prime 4. Yes, I finally got the number right. Now you may say, Redkwan, what are you doing coming here with this nonsense long after this information would have been relevant? Or you may be thinking, yeah, makes sense, but what I'm trying to say here is that the reason Metroid Prime 4 was scrapped comes down to us. Of course, part of it is due to the development. It probably wasn't going very well, and the game probably had some big issues, or it was just going in a direction that wasn't very fun. But the way Nintendo phrased it, it seems like it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't up to their standards. And yeah, you could take that to just be them downplaying the problem so they don't look like complete buffoons, and that the problems were actually really major. But to me, it doesn't sound like something that couldn't have worked. And you may say, well, Nintendo just has very high quality standards for games. If the games aren't meeting the standards, Nintendo just isn't going to want to sell it to people. But again, Nintendo has released some pretty bad games before, like Star Wars Battlefront 2. You probably haven't even played the game. Why don't you stop calling me out? And it's not just that Nintendo has released games that people don't think were very fun. They've released games that were just plain unpolished. Nintendo is usually pretty good about it, but they've also had no hesitation to release some pretty unfinished games, and games that just don't control right in the past. This seems different, and you may think that Nintendo has in fact done this with other games, and that it's just usually so early in development that we don't even know the game is coming at all yet, and while that might be true, because Metroid Prime 4 was revealed early to the people to get excited for the Switch, I still don't think that's the full story. So why do I think Nintendo chose to scrap development? Well, I think it's because they realize how important of a game it is. And it's such an important game because so many people are so excited for it to come out. I have no doubt that after the huge response to the announcement for the game at E3 2017, Nintendo knew they had to get the game right. People were expecting this game to be incredible, and I think a new Metroid on the Switch could have pushed some Switch systems as well. It was the importance of the game and the fan expectations that caused this. Nintendo wouldn't have done this with less important games or games with lower expectations. Maybe this all sounds obvious, I don't really know, but I think some people have given Nintendo a lot of credit for this, saying that no other company cares this much about the quality of its games, and that this shows that Nintendo really wants to make a quality product. Well, you know what? I think it's a bunch of baloney. Because if you think about it, Nintendo had to do this. Because of us. Imagine if Nintendo didn't pull this stunt. Either they would have made a mediocre game, which would be pretty upsetting for the Metroid fans who would have waited over a decade for a new true 3D game. They would work on it longer to fix all the problems, and all the people yapping about how the game was coming in 2017 would grow more and more frustrated, and the game still probably wouldn't be as good as people would have expected. Or they could scrap it and start over, which would take a long time, but it would ensure it would be good, as well as clearly boost their game-making reputation by coming out and saying that they wanted to start over to make sure they had a quality product. This was by far the best option they could have chosen. You could praise Nintendo for being this honest company if you want, but this was the option that was completely in their own best interest to take. If they continued on and made a mediocre Metroid, it probably wouldn't sell nearly as well. And a big new Metroid, that I think could have been a pretty huge system seller, even though Metroid Prime games haven't been huge in the past, ends up being something that people aren't going to be buying a Switch to be able to play. Sure, you lose some money from starting over development, but the amount you'd lose from putting out an iffy game that could have been really good would definitely counteract that. And if you chose the second option, you still probably wouldn't have as great of a game, and you'd probably take almost as long to get it out, And since you would have nothing to report on the development, people would just be waiting and waiting, expecting something that isn't coming for years. And so, because the development wasn't going the way they wanted, Nintendo had to start over. The huge fan anticipation and expectation for this game is what caused Nintendo to have to delay it. And I don't think Nintendo would have completely scrapped a project if it was almost any other game. Come on, you guys, making me wait longer for Metroid Prime 4. Didn't you totally contribute to that on multiple occasions? Nobody asked you anything! And what are you doing in my house? So Nintendo fans, Metroid fans, we did it. We delayed Metroid Prime 4. Let's all give ourselves a good pat on the back. I don't know if this is a positive thing we did, but let's just take credit for it anyway. Well, I'm Redkwan. Did this video make any sense? Probably not. How do you feel about Metroid Prime 4 getting scrapped? I don't think anyone cares at this point because it's stinking old news, but how about E3, am I right? Anyways, I'm Redkwan, thank you all for watching, and I'll hopefully see you all later. Goodbye.